Here we are. Hello everyone. I am here, Teresa Echaide, in the Soul Connections Conversations. I'm your host and creator of this series. This is a gathering space where we share our spiritual journeys and our soul's connections, purpose, and gifts. We're weaving a spiritual community here. On my spiritual journey, I have met so many wonderful soul sisters and brothers that are soul connections. Wonderful souls that have helped me, guided me, and taught me, and above all, connected at a deep soul level. I am honored, happy, and excited to bring them into this circle to share their stories with us. And today I'm really excited on my new friend I just met, Dewi. Hello.
Aloha. Hi, Teresa. Hi, everyone.
Aloha, and let me tell the audience about you. Dewi Maile Lim supports New Earth women to serve the global awakening from a place of authenticity and inspiration and to embody their sacred mission, unique medicine, and healing gifts. As a visionary artist and transformational guide, Dewi works one-on-one and in groups to lead and leads online and in-person workshops, masterminds, and painting vision quests. She is the founder of New Earth Luminary and Rebel Heart Creatrix Mind and is a stand for intentional creativity, consciousness expansion, sovereign living, and planetary awakening. That is a mouthful. Hello. Wow, this is just gonna be amazing. So, I mean, everything over here, like the words that just I'm jumping, like New Earth, Luminary, Creatrix, Hearts, whoo, full of like, oh my gosh, we are going on a journey today.
You can tell I like to play with words.
I love it. Thank you for being here. So excited. You coming in from Hawaii.
Yes, Moku Oke Ave is my home island. This is also known as Hawaii Island, and then the nickname is Big Island. So, yeah, tuning in live and direct with you and throughout the time space continuum from Hilo, my hometown.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for being here. And so let's start at the beginning. Let's tell the audience about yourself. Like, how was your growing up like? Um, Parts of your childhood that you want to share. If there's any significant stories that have contributed to your interest in the spirit world.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for opening up the space so beautifully for us. So, yes, this is my hometown, Hilo, Hawaii, or Hawaii. And my parents originally were not from Hawaii. So I'm first generation born here. Hawaii native, not native Hawaiian, however. I identify as a Hawaii national. And so my nationality is Hawaiian, but not by blood. It's kind of complicated. But I'm a global universal citizen as well. And Teresa and I found out that we both share Basque heritage in common. And that'll play a little bit into my story too, because one thing that I know about the Basque is that they do have a rebel streak in them. And one of my offerings is called Rebel Heart Creatrix Mind. So I do identify as a rebel as well. And being here in Hawaii, growing up, it was I feel so grateful that I, was able to live here and have my experience. And I'm multi ethnic. So here in Hawaii, there's quite a few people percentage population wise that are mixed ethnicities. And it was really amazing because there was no real qualms about being spiritual or what do they call it, politically correct. Everybody kind of used to just like make fun of each other, and you kind of like just accepted people's differences. And Hawaii has a complex history. It's definitely been colonized, and it was an Americanization happened here before I was born. But I grew up, in the 80s and 90s here, and there was a resurgence of the Hawaiian culture happening during my childhood. And so I got to dance hula growing up. exposed to different traditions here, and I've worked with some elders that really were instrumental in opening Hawaii up to reintroducing Hawaii, the culture of Hawaii, back to its people, because there had been a time where it was illegal to even speak the language. And so the elders that I've worked with, the Kupuna, Auntie Nona Beamer and Auntie Kupuna Lelehua Omfroy, they were really instrumental in starting to re-educate people about the beauty of Hawaii beyond just like the frou-frou cellophane skirt era, and more from that deep cultural spirit, which is the aloha spirit. You may have heard of it. And aloha is got complex meaning, multiple meanings, but I didn't really realize how much Hawaii affected me and influenced me until I moved outside of Hawaii. I moved to California for college, and then New York City for just expanding my horizons. And I was there from like 2000 to 2016 off and on. And one of my childhood friends and I, who I had met during my hula days, and we met when we were in fifth grade, we got together in New York and started a children's art organization called Art Unites Us, whose mission was to educate children in New York City green spaces about Indigenous cultures. And so we brought forward Hawaii and collaborated with other cultures, a lot of First Nations projects, and Hawaii ties were like Hawaii and First Nations people, especially North American First Nations, there's a real bond. And so that's some of the projects that I got involved with after the fact. But when I was growing up, I wasn't as like innately interested in the culture per se, but it kind of just like permeated my being. But I didn't really study with those elders until I had left and gone away and then came back. But what the two things that really stood out to me in my childhood that I thank my parents for is they really exposed me to a lot of different extracurricular activities. One of them was art, visual art, and another was music. And then for some reason, I think this was of my own volition, because it wasn't really influenced by my parents, but where they, put me into like a program for this. But during my school age days, I would always want to be involved with like the student body, kind of government organization type of leadership positions since I was young. And so this leadership theme has been a thread throughout my entire life, as well as this creativity part. And that out of all the things that I really tried when I was growing up, I didn't like all of them, but art was the one thing that stuck with me. And so when I moved to New York, I'm kind of jumping around multidimensionally here, but when I moved to New York and decided to start this children's art organization, I used my skills and my interests in the creative arts, and then I brought it forward to the kids as well as music. And that was a time when I was really doing a lot with music as well. This is like the early 2000s. I was writing songs and learned how to play guitar and performing. So I brought that to the kids, and that they just like, no matter where you go in the world, like just children are such amazing creative beings, they're just so tapped in still to that spark of curiosity and wonder. So I haven't worked with kids for a while. Now I work with adult kids, kids of all ages. However, yeah, I was just reflecting the other day with another new sister that I recently met about, because she has a 4-year-old, and I just love that age. They're just like, I love from when they're able to actually hold a pen and like start to draw like that. That's like my favorite kind of developmental stage with the young ones. Up until, of course, when they're even older, and then you can kind of like really like reason with them and be with them, um more on that level where you're not having to like simplify everything you say. But working with kids has been a big learning for me because I didn't really know anything. I never babysat kids growing up. I didn't really feel like I was good with kids up until then. um but yeah, it's that opportunity that I created for myself with my friend really allowed me to bring a bunch of facets from my childhood forward into an offering far away from home, and connect with people that really did. It showed me too that the aloha spirit lives in everyone. You don't have to be from Hawaii to have an experience of that. You can be thousands of miles away and really have a beautiful connection and experience of unity and oneness, when we're all just coming together with the intention to express ourselves and to share information about our culture, and to just be in the joy of expression. So yeah, that's kind of what's feeling alive to share about my childhood. I know I kind of jumped timelines a little bit too.
Oh, it's great. I love it. Yeah. Well, I see because you working with children is because you have that inner child of yours is alive. So that's how I see why it brings you so much joy to work with children and art because yeah, like you said, they're so open and good that you're working with adults now who are having that inner child. Sometimes it kind of our inner child goes to sleep or like is dormant and then we need to reawaken. And thank you for sharing that, such a good beautiful energy. And also for like I know because I know other people who are it's a little bit challenging to describe being born in Hawaii but you're not Hawaiian, native Hawaiian. So thank you for like making that distinction because yeah, when you ask somebody, it's like, well, are you Hawaiian? It's like, well, no, I was born in Hawaii, but so yeah, thank you for like respectfully making that distinction. And
Can I say
yeah,
one thing too about that? So you can be Hawaiian if by nationality, but Kanaka Maole is the name of the First Nations people here. So that, to say their name, Kanaka Maole is the name of the native Hawaiian people.
beautiful. Thank you for that. Yes, I am all about respecting, everybody's culture and sharing, we're all learning here. And what a beautiful place to grow up because like you said, it's there's a lot of different cultures that you can learn from. And similar that we speak in our Basque common heritage. Same thing happened in Spain at that time. People, they couldn't speak Basque. It was illegal because of the dictatorship, kind of how you share here there in Hawaii also. And people were persecuted. But then, once that ended, the dictatorship in the 80s, that was the resurgence. And me growing up over there, now I was able to learn the language. I was able to like, all these new things that not new things that were just brought up from from hiding. So what in alignment sister.
Wow, yeah, yeah. That's a very common story all over the planet.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and,
So
and the Bats people too, the unique thing that I know about them is their language is very unique, and there's not really traces, right, to any
yeah,
other
we're the
language.
mystery people of Europe. They don't know where the language came from or where we came from, but we're here.
From the stars.
Yes. Well, so tell us a little bit now, how was when and how was your spiritual awakening, like your story, we have all those
Yeah.
stories to share.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I love looking at this because this is sometimes a question that I ask when I interview people because I always love knowing this part of one's journey. And so when I went to New York, it was like everything opened up to me because I had, had a somewhat of a privileged life growing up here in Hawaii. I was able to travel because we had the means to do it. So it wasn't like I was only exposed to Hawaii. My father's from Indonesia, my mom's from the States. So, I got to travel going up, visiting both of my families on either side. And I did know, Hilo's a fairly small town. And I saw myself going beyond it just to expand my horizons. And I wanted to, after college in California, I wanted to go live in a big city. And so New York kind of fell into my lap. And actually I have roots in New York because my great grandmother on my grandma's side, my mom's mom side, my mom's grandma, so my great grandma, she was born in Brooklyn. And so I did have that kind of lineage piece there. And then my father also went to college upstate at University of Rochester for his med school. So, I had like kind of years later made the migration there. And like when my last year in college, I started getting into activism because I was starting to learn there was a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes, and it's about hemp and how this plant has cannabis in all of its form has been suppressed. And it was a concentrated effort to keep this plant away from the people. It was demonized. There was whole very well methodically planned out media campaign basically globally to suppress this plant because of corporate interests, and so that book just was like kind of flipped everything on its head, because I'm like, it just didn't make sense to me, like why a plant would be suppressed. Like I wasn't even into it so much for recreational use. I was just like, this makes no sense to me. So when I went to New York, I got involved with a group called Cures Not Wars, and we helped put on the Million Marijuana March. And that was the first time I'd spoke on stage to a really large audience, thousands and thousands of people. And I became friends with, at the time, they were recipients of medicine, of cannabis, because they had HIV, they were HIV positive, and they were using it as part of their medical protocol. And just seeing all of the, at the time it was heavily, now it's illegal in New York City, which is kind of a trip, but just seeing how criminalized it was. And, I made it my priority to actually travel up and down the Eastern Seaboard to go to demonstrations and rallies. And during those experiences, I was exposed to more, quote, issues and ills of the world, of the other ways things were being suppressed. And it opened up more of my sight to what was happening. And, I got angry about it. I felt it was like an authority complex, I guess, that came up during that time, where I was just like feeling, and I knew meanwhile, like this leader kind of storyline in my life had been playing out, since I was a child, that I mentioned earlier. And I felt inherently in my bones that I was meant to be like, at the time, I thought it was going to be like leading some kind of revolutionary movement. Like I didn't know what, I just knew that I was going to be on the vanguard or forefront of some big happening and change. And when I went to these demonstrations and rallies, I really felt like, okay, this could be it. Like maybe this is when we're all going to come together, humanity, and like unite, because I knew that also was important to me, even from a young age, that, I was like, this makes no sense. And I saw a lot of irregularities and contradictions within the movements that I was, helping to organize, like long seated feuds between like people who were, quote, fighting for the same things, but yet had all these like egoic battles and interfighting. And I was like, you guys don't even make sense. Like we all want like liberation of the plant and the humanity, and you guys are like fighting about like dumb shit. I mean, pardon me, but that's really how I saw it. And so I've always been, I guess I always observe things when I'm there. And when I would go to these, I started meeting some more radical activist friends, and there were even inconsistencies with them, and like they were for revolution, but they were against the plants, they were against marijuana. And I was like, well, how is your version of the new world not going to include plants? Like that didn't make sense to me either. And then I noticed, like, when I would go to these demonstrations and rallies, I would go with the radical kids, and then I would leave, and I would go to find where all the music makers were, and everybody had like drums and rattles and shakers, and everyone was just dancing in the streets. And that's where I would go, because I'm like, well, these people know this is where we need to be. Like, this is what's really going on. The unity consciousness vibe. Like, I'll just hang out with these people. There was no signs there was no demands. They were just like in the vibe, like, I'm like, okay, I just would always go find them. And I realized at one point that, we were fighting for peace, and I didn't feel peace inside myself. And so that was really at that point when I decided to stop going to these events and turn within, because I didn't really see the change that I see happening there. I saw fighting, I saw tear gas and riot cops, I saw people getting beat up or hurt. And I chose away from that. I chose to come within so that I could see more of the truth of what I want to see and be in that state. And I knew that it started within. So I really took personal responsibility for that at that point. And then I found a spiritual teacher through the same friend that I started the organization with in New York. She started meditating because she was like, I feel angry a lot, and I don't really know how to work with my anger. So I'm going to start going to meditation. So she invited me, and I went on this whole 13-year kind of spiritual pilgrimage where I would go back to New York City. I wasn't permanently based there for like the last half of my time there, but I would go back every year to connect with my spiritual community and go on retreat. And they were based right in the middle of East Village, or Upper East Side. And so, yeah, that was my kind of contrast. And I would go back to Hawaii, work with some of the elders that I mentioned, and then leave for the winter and then come back. So that really was, my wake up call through that whole, fighting in the streets to like peace within journey.
Wow, beautiful journey, and that awareness and observation that you have, it's like sometimes that's how it is too. I find, like, because you're searching, you're looking for your community, your tribe, and then you're like, oh, I want these, but then you start seeing, well, I don't resonate with everything, and just having that awareness of like zooming out and stepping back and kind of really is like, is this good for me, for my growth? And like you mentioned, then, and sometimes it's a mix of different things where your community is. But yeah, honing down into like the art, that's great. And that's a segue about, let's talk about our soul connection real quick, how we came about. Recently, last month, I had our online summit, Unleash Your Brilliant Creativity, inspiring the creatrix within you. And you were one of the people who tuned in for that and reached out to me and share, all the beautiful work and art that you do, and just connecting and about collaborating. And I appreciate you so much for reaching out. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and here we are, and it's like
No.
and expanding the tribe. And I mean, I checked out your website and your free gift and everything, and the beautiful work that you do. And let's talk about that. Who are you now, and what you do today? Your soul's gifts, your offerings. As we were mentioning, you just did a few retreats this month, so tell the audience all of the good stuff that you bring.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, there was a 4-year period where I kind of had a sacred pause, and it happened to coincide with the whole demic era. I'll just call it that. And I was in a relationship at the time, and really got some space to be able to pursue my passions again. And I had kind of stepped away from art for a while. And even when I was working with the kids, the art that I would make would usually just be around like prototypes and creating samples so the kids would have ideas of like how they might want to create a piece of their own, and or creating signs or things like that. And it wasn't until I found intentional creativity and my teacher Shiloh Sophia that I really had a breakthrough with art on a soul level. You're having some kind of I see. Yeah,
Yes, I know of her. I didn't go to her retreats, but yes, she's here from California, and other people have exposed me to her work and everything. And it's like she's huge, like, wow.
yeah. So her and I had connected years and years before, like 10 years prior online. I launched my first blog, I think in like 2009 through one of her first programs she did online called My Butterfly. And then, wasn't following or really keeping in touch with her. And then in 2018, my friend Amber Kuile Mailani Bonici, she invited me to go to one of her retreats, and she's certified in the method as well. And it was a 3-day experience where I went through this process that Shiloh taught, and Shiloh just happened to be there. So I got to meet Shiloh then. And anyway, the method just really spoke to me. She's really at the forefront of where consciousness, awakening, soul-led, communion, divine feminine, and creativity meet. That's how I'm gonna say what I see in her, and that's what I'm inspired by too. And because one of the things that I love about creativity, and that I feel so essential for these times, and you probably can resonate because that was the whole focus of your summit, is like we are not going to be able to shift from one way of being into the next, to bridge from separation consciousness to unity consciousness from the same level of thinking and paradigm that we were in before. And as such, creativity, the imagination coming from a place of infinite possibility and limitless thinking is really what's going to be required in order for us to continue to make the shift. And so I find this modality so rich for that, to have that. That's my context in which I remind the women and the people that I play and pray with in my field, like this kind of take them out into like the quantum of like, here we are here, where all the prophecies are meeting, where all of the ages, the turning of the ages, this processional cycle, the shift is happening here and now. And we came here for this. We get to be on the forefront, on the front lines of this global awakening, as I like to see. And the artists, the creatives, the people who can see beyond, the boxes that humanity has painted themselves or placed themselves into, knowingly or unknowingly. To me, I feel like that needs to be celebrated. And then we see it even in the kids. Like, I saw it when I was working with the kids, that like they deliberately took the arts out of the schooling system in New York City while I was there. And so having someone like me, like a resource teacher, come in was like they had to find funding for that. Like the school had to prioritize making it happen, because it wasn't going to happen through the means where it had before, just through the regular curriculum, And so that was all planned. And so I feel like being creative and allowing ourselves to just express and explore from a place of curiosity and wonder really is breaking the mold and dissolving that, slave matrix way of being, because you can't, like, we're the only ones keeping ourselves in the box at this point, like, we have the power. And that's the consciousness piece too, is so key, to change our paradigm and shift our perspective. It really does start there. And I find this method allows us to kind of somatically get there quicker, in the quantum, because it's bypassing some of the ways our brain can filter more linearly, or question. And then if there is questioning that happens through this process, I call it a painting vision quest. So those are the 2 retreats that I just led. They're day-long experiences that I host from time to time, virtually and in person. And that's part of the magic that happens. And then the medicine, of the moment, like whatever's there for us as we go through this process, can all be layered into your process as this metamorphic journey. So your tears you cry become like a way you're blessing the painting. You can kiss it, you can, smudge it, do rattle. It's very shamanic at times. And so, and then and then we give ourselves these labels, or like say I'm creative or I'm not creative, based on maybe some trauma we went through in the past, or maybe it wasn't cultivated within us or encouraged when we were younger. Usually something happens along the way where we make a decision that that's not the way we are. But everyone is creating, like, your entire life has been created by you to some extent, so it's just kind of renegotiating our identity. And that's part of the thing that I look at too, is like the most recent one was called Medicine Woman. And so medicine as a metaphor for your gifts, medicine as like a metaphor for the salve that those who you serve most, need to be reminded of, and have an experience with, so that they can fully come into the remembrance of their perfection and wholeness. And so Medicine Woman, also from literally, like, most of the women that I do work with are healers, artists, guides of some sort, transformational change agents. So I'm liking this concept of the medicine woman right now. And just as, one might not think of themselves as creative, a woman might not think of herself as a medicine woman, but yet there is some deep, even through her own life experience, there's medicine in sharing your story. There's medicine in seeing how far you've come, and what, beautiful lessons and gains and the wisdom you've kind of um harvested, let's say, from your experience. Like, that can all be of service to other people. And so really the women that I love to play with the most, they're feeling this like missioned kind of call to step up and, really show up during this time as way showers. And so I do that, like the way we do that. I mean, and everything we do affects the field, right? So I feel like the intentionality that this practice brings is so beautiful, because as we envision it, as we paint it, as we speak it, as we pray it, it is what it is. It's happening. So it's so near and dear to my heart. I feel so aligned and on purpose when I do it. And I'm just about to start a 5-month training with Shiloh called Animistica. And it is going to be the next kind of layer. She's going to be having us go out into nature and paint in nature a lot. And it has an animism component. And then we'll be creating our own modality from it. And so it has a healing arts focus for this one. And I haven't worked with her directly in some years, so I'm really excited because we're starting soon.
Wow, that sounds so exciting. And oh my God, I have just like the synchronicities, and that's why things are just meant to happen. You mentioned medicine woman. On my birthday, April 30th, I usually do tarot cards, and I think it's from the deck Women, like about women, but the moon cycles. And I did pull medicine woman.
Wow.
It's like, and then the other your own medicine. Like I love, I don't know if you're familiar with Maria Sabina. She was the Mexican lady who brought the mushrooms, but she has a poem that says, "You are the medicine." Now we, each of us are the medicine for our own healing, you know. We are just holding each other's hands, leading the way, or like helping and guiding, but we are the medicine. So I love that. It's like medicine woman, so so powerful.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for bringing her up because I'm definitely drawn to Mexico and feel very just when the way that the culture honors the experience of death and dying and feels like so rich in the art there and just everything. So yes, she's on my radar. I know she's transitioned and just to be kind of do a pilgrimage to where she lived, and I have friends that have um, mentioned her to me. So thank you for placing her in my field again.
Yes, definitely. And could you share a little bit? What's the feedback that you get from the participants on your retreat? So what's the feeling? Oh, how is, if people, who are listening are interested, could you give just a little bit of a glimpse of how is the day, the retreat, and what's the feedback that you get from the participants? How do they feel about these?
Yeah, it's pretty profound. I mean, one of the last a woman, a young woman, she recently, her father just transitioned like 2 months ago, and she's been grieving, and she was able to bring that to the canvas. And I happened to, this was the one that was 2 ago now, I happened to speak to my father and mention how he really supported, like honoring him as an ancestor, and how he really supported my art, and kind of just giving him respect and honor and love for that, because that without, he was like my first art patron in a way. And so yeah, that just immediately, like the tears were already falling. This was like in the opening circle. And so she had a very profound experience. um One of the things she said was, I met my higher self. I Because that's, you connect through the process, so you start it with intention, as most beautifully held containers will. And then it's kind of like a past, present, future, here and now, like bringing yourself fully present. So there is a purification that happens. That's how I always start my journeys, is clearing the path. And then, but all of it is as a layer on the canvas. And then I do at one point I'll do a guided journey, and that is where you're connecting with the essence of your medicine woman, your high self aspect. It's you at your fully expressed, embodied, divine neutrality self. And so she appears during the vision, and then the process from then on is tuning in with her energy. And there's a very simple way I teach of drawing a figure. So for those who feel like they can't even draw a stick figure, this is perfect for you, because even though I have art training and background, like this was like a miracle for me to learn this piece. And so that is taught, and then there's a revelation moment where she appears on the canvas, and then from then on you can dialogue with her as an oracle, and ask her what colors she wants, and like use this two-dimensional form of her appearing as a way to connect deeper with yourself. And, for those who've done maybe like Gestalt, or, there's other methods where family constellations, like there's a lot of modalities out there where you're kind of, there's different parts, right? And then you can dialogue with the parts. So really, I think what this, and really intentional creativity is a global movement. I mean, they have like a 500-year vision for how this is going to carry forward into perpetuity. And so really though, it's, and that one of the other things that was part of this vision is to create more positive and exalted, beautiful images of the divine feminine. And so each person can express what that looks like for them, and they fall in love with their piece. And so, I'm kind of describing more the process, but just what she said, I finally met my higher self. Like that was pretty profound for me. So I'll just share that one for now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's a healing place. You are holding sacred space, and I'm sure they're drawn to you because of the beauty that you create, and they are bringing forth as well. And that's beautiful. Thank you. And can you just to before we close, if you can just let people know your website is going to be posted and everything, but if you can let them know the free gift that you have over there, so maybe they can start playing with that oracle. If you can tell a little bit about that.
For sure. So I have two things. I'm literally just about to launch my Substack, which is going to serve as like a place to and it's called New Earth Luminary, which is my business movement. So newearthluminary.substack.com. You can subscribe for free. And there will be content regularly coming from there. So it's just about to launch. So as we air this, it'll probably have a little bit, but there's a lot more coming. So if you resonate with my vibe and would like to follow my journey and be a part of it, and interface with me, that's a great place. And then please also join my mailing list. And the way you can do that is through this free gift, and it's called You Oracle. So it is an intentional creativity process that is kind of a deep dive. So you do need to schedule some creative playtime with yourself to move through it. There are some other little like pearls along the way that are more bite-sized as well once you join my list. But that would be the best way. And it's bit.ly/ I forget now. You have the link. I think
Yes,
it's
Oracle Deck Workshop. Yes,
Yes,
I'll put everything below here.
Yeah, bit.ly/ Oracle Deck Workshop. And so that would be a great way to come into my world. And of course, like reach out if at any time you want to connect. I love meeting more soul family like you, Teresa. And yeah, this is the time. Like I said, we came here for this time, and all I see around me is beauty and like the the chosen beauty way path of and there is, I see the struggles and the hardships and the bloodshed too. I'm not denying that piece. And like, if we are privileged enough and safe enough and conscious, coherent enough to be in a place where we can choose our own, how to navigate and proceed in our life, then why would we not choose to really focus on what we prefer to experience and create beauty and be beauty and celebrate that, and that helps our planet. She feels that. And we're at that point where we're just like in that one field with her, because we're honoring her, she's honoring us, and so I have I'm very excited about these next few years. And I know you follow astrology too, but this is just like the time to be alive right now. If I'm convinced that this is the time to be alive on the planet.
Yes, definitely powerful words that you share too. But yeah, walk in beauty and create beauty. So it amplifies the energy, to the contrast of what we see, everything else that is going on. But and that's what Mother Earth ultimately is giving us beauty. Is the humankind that kind of does needs to create more beauty.
Yeah, and it's like, and it can happen just in a moment, and everything can change in a moment. Like, even if someone's hearing this and feeling skeptical or whatever, like, that doesn't mean you're going to be skeptical in 5 seconds from now. You know what I mean? Like, don't put yourself in that. Just be open to the possibility that everything can change for the better and for the preferred, and the restoration of humanity's remembrance of our divine birthright to be able to thrive and be in this unity state. Like, it's happening no matter what. I feel, so why not choose it now?
Wow, thank you for those profound words. It just really touches my heart. And oh, I'm so grateful for you being here with me and connecting. And look, in the span of a month, we're like creating
So
beauty.
cool. I know. I was like, I need to email her right now. Like, I'm just following my heart at this point. Like, if the thought comes, I'm like, all right, do it now. I've gotten to that point where I'm just pretty much in a trust state. So that was part of me reaching out to you. I'm so glad you said yes. And we're so receptive and loving from the very beginning. Thank you, sister.
Yes, thank you, dear soul sister, too, Dewi. It's been a pleasure to have you here in my podcast and sharing your love and beauty with our audience. So super excited that people who will find you and resonate with you will reach out to you and, create more beauty.
Yay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Until next time. Bye.
Aloha.